Hello. Tonight, the Associated Press has obtained footage of Louisiana state troopers murdering a black man by the name of Ronald Green. After researching the murder and watching the horrifying footage, it has become clear to me that I need to speak up about it. I'll give you an overview of the whole situation, and I'll link an article in the description so you can read more about it for yourself. In 2019, police are pursuing Mr. Green after he fails to stop for an unspecified traffic violation. Now, Green eventually crashes into some sort of tree or shrub. Um, Now, important thing to note is the damage done to the car was minimal. Okay, the airbag did not even pop, and that comes into play later on. Now, police, approach the car attempting to take Mr. Green into custody. And so Mr. Green puts his hands in the air as the police approach him. And he gets tased and is dragged out of his car. And, while this entire scenario is going on, one thing that Mr. Green is, he's saying, I'm sorry. And it's obvious that that is, an attempt of surrendering, giving up, essentially. And, okay, so after this, he's held in a chokehold for quite some time. He is then tased again, and then he gets handcuffed, okay? And even after he was handcuffed, he was beaten, choked, mocked, and and all while he was wearing handcuffs and while he was restrained. Um, Ronald Green eventually died on the way to the hospital. Now, at the time, police said that he had died by crashing into a tree or a shrub, which is obviously not true for two reasons. One, photos of the car after the accident didn't show, they showed minimal damage. They did not show damage that could, that could cause a lethal car accident. It was essentially just a few dents, okay? And, the airbag didn't even go off, right? Um, so yeah, there's that, and then the other reason is, today, we have the body camera footage that was released by the Associated Press. Now, it's important to note, 2 years later, that the police have still not released the video officially. Instead, a reporter from the Associated Press had to leak it to the public. And the video basically is 46 minutes long, and it shows all of the events that I previously described, right? Here are some of the highlights from the video. One officer says, quote, "I hope this guy doesn't have fucking AIDS," end quote. Now, this refers to the fact that the officer was covered in all of the blood of Mr. Ronald Green. Okay? So obviously, he's saying that in reference to the literal blood on his hands, right? And another thing that occurs during the video, Ronald Green is dragged by the handcuffs around his feet, okay? Um, which is obviously that's not, that's obviously a complete abuse of power and an over, an overreach, an abuse of, force, right? Excessive force is the word I'm looking for. And then, the emergency room doctor that, saw Mr. Green come into the hospital, he was dead on arrival. And the ER doctor said, yeah, the case that the police have made that he's crashed into a tree or a shrub doesn't match up, especially when he has taser prongs in him when he was examined at the ER. So, Ronald Green was murdered. These state troopers that were taking him into custody clearly intended to cause as much pain and suffering as possible. And to be honest, there never really can be justice for the murder of Ronald Green. But we can do our best to prevent, to give his family closure and to prevent situations like this from happening ever again. Okay. So we need to spread the word, we need to raise awareness, and we need to help any way we can, because that's the only way we end police brutality, you know? And we cannot forget what happened tonight, or what happened on that night during in 2019, right? Because, you know, the events in history that we forget about always repeat themselves. I would also like to say that Black Lives Matter. Now, how you might be thinking, well, how can I help out with the cause? Okay, first of all, tell people about the issue. Okay, you know, family, friends, relatives, you know, whoever really, you know, tell them about the whole issue, about the whole situation. Explain to them why it's significant. You know, and why it's important and why it needs to be fixed. Okay. Um, if you do have money to spare, you can donate to Black Lives Matter, or you know there are countless other organizations that are reputable that you can also donate to that are actively working to help the cause as well. I'll try to link a few resources in the description. Um, Also, one of the best ways you can, you know, fight police brutality and systemic racism is to educate yourself. You know, like clicking on this video and watching till this point, you know, you're educating yourself. That's one of the best ways we can combat systemic racism and police brutality. Finally, I would just like to say, for all the white people out there, um, you know, I'm not an African American. I am a person of color, but I can understand. I totally sympathize, and I can never, you know, I'll never truly understand what it's like to be an African American in America. Um, but I do understand. And one thing to white people, if you're watching this video, use your privilege. Use your privilege to shield those who do not have that privilege. And so that can be one way you can also help. Okay. Finally, one last thing. I would just like to, you know, briefly address the All Lives Matter movement. Okay. Um, so basically, All Lives Matter, you know, it's a weird hill to die on. Okay. Now, if you look at the phrase Black Lives Matter without any context, okay, you know, that I can understand why that might sound a bit racist. Okay. But let me tell you a comic that I saw that perfectly, you know, explains the entire situation. So, there's this guy and he's protesting and he has a sign that says Black Lives Matter. And someone comes up to him and he says, "Hey, that's racist. All lives matter." And so the guy who's holding the Black Lives Matter sign is protesting and he's saying, "Okay, well, listen, of course all lives matter, you know? Everyone recognizes that. But the thing is that Black lives need a lot of attention and a lot of help right now because you know, of all the outrageous abuse and systemic racism that is impacting, um, you know, that is impacting them, right? And so, an analogy that the person makes in the comic, right? He says, you know, let's say I was protesting and saying, we need to save the rainforest. And then someone walks up to them and is like, hey, hey, we need to save all forests, you know? It's not that the other lives aren't important or that they're lesser. It's just that we need to focus on helping this specific issue because it is a situation that has gotten completely out of control. And then finally, you know, the guy says, "Okay, well, I don't know. Yeah, okay, I was wrong, but I don't know what to do. Can I, you know, still support? Can I support the movement?" And the other guy is like, "Yeah, of course you can. You know, it doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't make you, you know, dumb if you change your mind, you know, uh, because really that's how you learn. That's how you improve. That's how the smartest people became smart is by you know learning from their mistakes, right? And so yeah, you know, it really just you know, it's about adapting. You need to adapt, okay? And so that is really the smartest thing you can do is learn to adapt, right? So you don't have to be ashamed if you change your opinion, okay? All right. My name is Abson Atlas, and Black Lives Matter.